Ezreal banned away in this kind of draft. Dagda, I also want to point out for Ultra Prime, while I like their draft, is that we have Sett and Jayce, which can both be flexed. xiaocaobao has played Jayce in the mid lane before in their last series, so anything's possible. So LGD just kind of have to guess where's going where and start looking at the bottom lane themselves.
Yeah, I think it doesn't matter a huge amount for LGD. Like, you have your game plan. You know what you're going to try and do. And the whole idea here is obviously try to go for those early dives top, then set up when you get access to the Destiny where you just double down on top, and then when you get to the late game you can have Xiye go with your top laner, and you can play like this two-man side lane that puts a heap of pressure on towards Ultra Prime, especially if you've set like, well, someone like the Sett behind who's not able to deal with Garvey by himself, and then you're adding in this Twisted Fate to the mix as well. So it becomes quite an impressive early to mid-game composition to deal with as Ultra Prime, but if they're able to weather the storm against LGD, they don't fall too far behind. At least the team fighting strength of Ultra Prime can become a bigger factor. So for me, for Ultra Prime, I'm trying to see if they can get a strong bot lane here for themselves that they're able to play around. Because if you can start to get these early dragons in your favor, it makes it a little bit more difficult for LGD to buy time on the map to go for this kind of map play with the Twisted Fate.
I just want to see what gets drafted in the bottom lane though, right? Because Lulu, something that's such a high priority is left open. Does this mean we get the COG Lulu where it is a shift of tempo in the game, right? We know that early game we talked about, but then we get to the late game insurance policy where Renekton acts more like the front line and you utilize the poke and the heal that can come off of the mid jungle 2v2. Dagda, I'm very curious about this one. Let's see first what Ultra Prime lock in.
Yeah, and I think the big thing as well, if you go for the Lulu Kog'Maw, is in a composition that usually has a Twisted Fate, because you're building the Everfrost, you end up in a position where you don't really have a huge amount of damage. You're fairly heavily on this pick style, and you're not actually able to play team fights incredibly well, but if you want to go for some of these super late game scalers, they can dish out the damage that Twisted Fate is lacking, and you can enable them super well thanks to gold cards and the CC chains that the Renekton can provide. So I think certainly for LGD, this style and the fact that Lulu has managed to creep her way back in that meta in the bottom side opens up a lot of things for LGD. However, if you end up in a position where Ultra Prime, especially with a Nautilus Jhin, can set up this combo alongside the Lillia, you can one-shot mark, make it very difficult for Kramer to play towards, and especially if you have Hacker playing down towards that bottom side, I'm a bit worried this bot lane doesn't get time to scale into the late game.
But I think, again, just to harp on the point, jungle interaction very important here. We'll be watching in the early game where the Lillia, we know, will just be looking towards farming, getting the Lilting Lullaby at level 6, but Shadow going to be optimizing for farming and getting the game snowballing in their favor, even with a great team fighting AD carry like the Jinx in the end. Kind of sad we didn't see the COG more, but to our audience that might be a bit more international, might be watching the LEC, I think it's important to note that Kog'Maw in the LPL has only been played 3 times. That is less than the LEC, and we've been going for 7 days now. This is our 7th day of week number 1. It's the exact same as LEC. So it's kind of bonkers to think how different it is in our region where things like the Jinx still more popular. This is game number 5. And for Kramer in the past as well, this has been one of his favorite champions. So let's hope this gives him a bit of agency, especially with the Lulu by his side. And let's see how LGD go playing what was a semblance of their 2020 draft.
I want to take a closer look at this Jhin pick though, because I think this opens up a really, really interesting counter to the Twisted Fate. And I know that sounds incredibly strange, right? But because you've got the Twisted Fate who wants to be trying to play in side lanes and looking for picks, when you've got a Lillia Jhin combo, it becomes very easy for Hacker and Smlz to actually looking for picks back, especially onto immobile champions like the Jinx, on towards Mark and this Lulu, because you can go towards, the bowling ball. I can't think of the name of it off the top of my head. The E. Swirl Seed, thank you. Then you can follow up with the Deadly Flourish. You can look for a pick that way. The Curtain Call as well can set up for engages from very far away, like by slowing down, especially when Hacker's running this Predator. Like, you have ways now of actually counteracting some of the map play from LGD with your own very long range poke and engage. So I think for Ultra Prime, we're going to actually end up with a lot of back and forth in this mid game between, Xiye trying to look for a pick and Ultra Prime trying to respond with their own sort of pick style.
We'll see how they go, noticing the Jhin and the Lillia there as well. We're onto Summoner's Rift, and I believe it was a deep ward spotted. Again, we come onto the rift at 55 seconds, which is a little bit late. So not too sure if the ward was actually spotted. It was ward into lens, but no one actually has a CS score. So I'm going to assume it was put somewhere. At the very least, Shadow starting on the bottom side, and he's getting a very hard leash here. So Shadow again, we talked about, needs the momentum here in this jungle. Has gone for the Dark Harvest, as we see with most Nidalees, apart from the Electrocute. And against Hacker's Predator, excuse me, it's going to be interesting to watch the jungle pathing, especially since Shadow is already making his way straight to the topside camps.
Yeah, and you can see Garvey's pushing this top lane incredibly hard as well. ZS allowing him to just shove this one in. So it looks like they're still trying to see if they can go for this crash and dive early on. But look at the pathing coming through from Hacker. He'll be there to support it, make sure it's shut down, and could even potentially lead itself to ZS trying to freeze this wave in the top side and not giving the opportunity for LGD to make these plays happen. But I've been keeping my eyes closely on that, as in the mid lane, there's going to be pretty much nothing. Xiye doesn't have the burst damage to get through xiaocaobao, and xiaocaobao can just continue to push this wave continuously.
At least be a bit of a nuisance. Hacker picking up his blue in the meantime, though. You talked about the wave management. Garvey still pushing in, but he's actually timed it poorly. Flash on in. That's a quick Q. ZS is at the ready as well. No hammer stance needed as First Blood comes in to punish before Shadow can even get up there.
And this is why I was really surprised to see Garvey trying to hard shove this wave. Like, as a Renekton, you don't have the ability to actually crash the wave in a similar manner without burning through your almost entire health bar, which then makes the dive nullified anyway that you want to go for with Shadow. So Hacker doing a great job there of going, alright, cool, I'm actually going to skip my Grump on the top side and go for that play. And now xiaoC wants to add another notch to the
At least force the flash coming through. Dredgeline connects, gold card there. Nothing more than that, is he's just going to do some damage on the support. Dagda, I want to point out a ward that expired coming through from either xiaocaobao or Hacker up towards the Raptor campus. Flash face breaker. We've all done it. Wrong angle, wrong mouse cursor. Shadow's coming in just in case as well. Mark's moving up the level 2 Lulu. 3v3 in the mid lane. Nothing like LPL in the morning. Dagda, I want to point out that ward spotted out where Shadow was, so Hacker could come straight in and commit hard for the gank in the top side. So again, Ultra Prime, their vision control has been so great in this series and the other series we saw against FPX, and it's netting them huge bonuses.
It's also a case of Ultra Prime trying to play really well towards Hacker, because if you get that play from xiaocaobao, right, he gets the face breaker, you force Xiye out of lane, or at least you kill him as potentially as well, and then you can actually make your way down towards that bottom side, pick up another scuttle for yourself, and Hacker's in a fantastic spot as well because of the path that Shadow had to take. So you can see Ultra Prime are trying to capitalize on some of the early mistakes from LGD, just the execution not quite there, but I do like the idea.
It is a shame, but sad also that there is no Hex Flash. As a Sett support, Sett mid, sorry, you would take it anyway, but still at the very least. Xiye doing some good damage here as Hacker shows himself in just to help push the wave and move to the top side. And let's just note that Hacker, even after assisting with the top side play, is ahead by a camp and a half. And it's got a lot to play with, especially into this top side, which is still losing out. Flash coming in, though. Meanwhile, the spear does connect from Shadow. He wants to go all in, and against Hacker, he'll take this into a 1v1 as xiaocaobao has joined it as well. Javelin toss also connects. The face breaker brings him in closer. Pounce is there. One more hit, but Shadow can't get it. ZS cleans him up before he can think about it, and now the fight continues. Xiye has run out of matter as xiaoC has made the better roam, and xiaocaobao gets one on the menu.
Amazing play from Ultra Prime. Everyone working in conjunction together, and unfortunately for Shadow, bloodlust in his eyes and doesn't realize Garvey, he's got zero control at topside. He'd taken a heap of damage from ZS. The wave was fully pushed under tower, and ZS is able to move down with the acceleration shock blast to finish that off. And now Hacker, he's massively far ahead, and I like the idea again here from LGD trying to capitalize on the CC from Xiye, but like Hacker does a great job of just staying safe. Even though he tanks up the spear there, he's able to move away from Xiye. ZS comes down and they're totally fine. xiaoC again getting these strong roams from the bottom lane as well means that they're just able to close out on Xiye as well. Ultra Prime now so far ahead. You've got a massive lead for Hacker, and they may be looking for more on this top side.
Look at this teleport committed just to help ensure a couple of extra bits of turret plating. Herald has not been picked up as it's only 6 minutes in the game. Garvey setting himself up, but Hacker now has the lilting lullaby as there we go. It's going to be onto 2. The face breaker, haymaker. It's time to stop and look in the mirror because xiaocaobao puts that over in an instance.
Yes, you lose ZS, but 3 kills
no.
a bot side mark. He's in trouble.
Smlz's got to the 4th shot. He'll have to reload. Kramer with the lethal tempo will back away. But Dagda, man, that was all in. xiaocaobao pulls in everyone. That was just brilliant.
And as LGD, we already said, they're the team that wants to get the snowball rolling. They're the guys that want to be aggressive and making these early plays with Shadow, Xiye, and Garvey. Well, look at the lanes that are behind. It's Shadow, Xiye, and Garvey. These guys are completely out of the equation now. You're 0-2 on your Renekton against the Jayce, who's picked up 3 kills. He's going to be so far accelerated. Same when you look at this mid lane. xiaocaobao, when he finishes off the Stride Breaker, can set up incredibly well for Hacker now too. And he can continue to make these roaming plays, continue to put pressure on the map. And in the 8-minute mark, we're going to have this Rift Guard spawning. You've now got complete control there for Ultra Prime, and they can look to shut down this top lane play by just taking top lane turrets.
Curtain call comes through. Meanwhile, on Smlz, but further to your point, we talked about LGD have this composition where the top side really wants to snowball. That's what the Twisted Fate's all about. And you have to look at what else you can do now if you're LGD, maybe focusing towards the bottom side, shift directions, and put the Jinx in a favorable position, because even Kramer and Mark down by 20 CS here against the Jhin Nautilus. Mid's at an even state with 3 kills, so gold, of course, in the favor of about 1,000 with just the kills alone. And the Renekton is 20 CS down, 1,500 gold down, and jungle is all the calls. Hacker, yet again, his early game has been exceptional.
Yeah, I'm really digging how strong Ultra Prime look coming into summer 2021. Oh, xiaoC, that was cheeky. Not quite able to connect that hook, but still, like, you can tell this has been a team that's massively leveled up. I mean, they were E-Star, and the big thing that we have for them is, like, yes, we see some talent on this roster, right? xiaoC was looking great in that bottom lane when he's on these hook champions, but we never really got to see a lot of it come together. Now, though, with them actually adding, you know, xiaocaobao into the roster, Smlz providing that strength in the AD carry role, this Ultra Prime roster looks so much better.
Yeah, it really does. It's such a step up, as you were saying. I think the biggest thing for me about Ultra Prime as well is that in the mid lane, even though Irma wasn't the weak link, xiaocaobao seems to be an upgrade so far. I think he's been a lot more consistent so far in his 2 series. Has a really high potential. Also, Smlz back on the roster. A great AD carry that's not going to hemorrhage debt. Like, no offense to Rat, but there is a huge level difference, and Smlz's been showing it every game since. Ultra Prime on the Dragon for now as Garvey's walking on in. Dominus has been used, but ZS has enough matter in the tank to try and blast him down. If Garvey walks up, Ultra Prime, they're not losing out on the top side, they're not losing out on the bottom side, Dagda, they're not even losing out mid.
And the thing is, because Garvey's losing out top side, Shadow is losing out in the jungle. True. He wanted to pass down towards his bottom side there, but he's now not in position for this dive because he had to keep Garvey safe in top lane.
And look at this, look at the flash from xiaoC, that was clean. Depth charge comes through, Kramer's gonna get rooted, Lilting Lullaby is cleansed away as Shadow is trying to respond. The Harpoon needs to land on one target here as Garvey's TP'd on in. Golden is Hacker as xiaoC at half health for the re-engage. Garvey just used the dominance to xiaocaobao, jumps on in, dunks down, face breaker connects. He's making up for the mid lane play. The haymaker launches through as Garvey cleans it with cold the meat. We've got Xiye in the play as well, as Ultra Prime are actually losing this one. The numbers advantage all to LGD, as they get a couple of kills back on the board. Mark healed up to slow down, get the Glitterlands, the gold card, and LGD with some big shutdowns.
Yeah, managing to turn that play back around for themselves. Now, ZS will get this top lane turret, but you can see LGD using the fact that they had those globals available to make it down to that play and shut down Ultra Prime, who went that bit too deep on trying to make that play happen. We're going to see it here. So you've got the Destiny available for the Twisted Fate. You've the TP that's just about to take over from the Renekton. They were trying to finish this play way sooner, but because they tried to greed for Kramer, Hacker and xiaoC go that bit too deep. No support coming through from the AD carry because Smlz is stuck without a wave. And although xiaocaobao tried to make it down, tried to turn this play around, They were just that little bit too late. Now, to be fair, Kramer was put out of this play. They also picked off the Lulu, so it was a 2 for 3 all said and done, with ZS getting some turret plates on the top side. So it's not the end of the world, but certainly when Ultra Prime are, in such a prime position, they should definitely be trading up, not kind of going even when all is said and done.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, giving the shutdowns over made it sure it wasn't even. And Shadow picking up some gold there as well, after doing so much burst damage to Smlz, who walked into the play. And now LGD only down 3,000 gold, and that's saying something after the game felt like it was over at the 6-7 minute mark. ZS gets the solo turret in the top side, so he's doing well off now with the Eclipse. xiaocaobao with the Stride Breaker, but Everfrost for Xiye. And he has a stopwatch, means that LGD, if they find a pick, they can buy time. They can try and create those numbers advantage like they did before.
Yeah, you can see though, Ultra Prime now realizing, hey look, ZS is the one with the TP advantage, so we can always match Xiye. We've got this Rift Herald, so that's a ton of gold that's going in on the bottom side of the map. You can shove this in, make it very difficult for Xiye to actually have impact in the game, because at this stage, if Xiye tries to leave that mid lane, he ends up in a situation where you lose the mid lane tower. Ultra Prime can collapse super easily, so he has to give up a lot of space. And from the LGD game plan, where it's a case of try and snowball this early advantage into lane dominance, into having tempo advantage on the map, they're so far behind, it becomes way too hard to try and make that play happen.
I think it's important to note that, yeah, like if you fall too far behind it, and let's be honest, Ultra Prime is still super far ahead. That was a good play from LGD, but it's not like this game is suddenly, oh, this is definitely much better for LGD. They're still in such a deficit, but now just trying to find little parts that they can claw out, like this top lane plating.
Oh, xiaocaobao.
He's moving into danger. Gold card's going to be here. Destiny was used as well, I believe, from Xiye, just to get full vision. Facebreaker comes in with the Haymaker. xiaocaobao doesn't die. And, LGD, they used a bit for that, but the fact that Ultra Prime get away just shows you more of the state of the game. xiaocaobao has 1.5 items, or one and a bit.
xiaocaobao just played that incredibly well. Like, the fact that he managed to get that showstopper on towards Garvey to keep himself safe, drag him away from Shadow and Xiye, and not actually giving either Shadow the opportunity to get a spear or Xiye to get the follow-up CC, gave him a lot more time. Now ZS, he may not be so lucky.
Okay, round 2, different player. Flashes Bird immediately, dominance there. The hammer back as TP is the response. ZS has got the cavalry coming in as LGD are bringing in their own muscle. It's Xiye here who already used the Destiny, and it was just in case. Ultra Prime, they might be okay with the teleport for teleport.
Teleport for teleport for teleport for teleport.
Ah, yes.
You gotta add in all the equations. Yeah. It's a lot of action up in this top side. But look, either way, Ultra Prime again, keeping control there. Now, it does give the opportunity for Xiye, who'll have his Destiny up in just a little bit, to again try and make more of these plays, but you're not actually getting much more from Ultra Prime, although with Dragon, might spawn in 20 seconds. LGD can't really contest this.
Yep.
Especially just because of how strong the bottom 4 on the map are, although I would have preferred to see xiaocaobao actually start to make his way down here and swap roles with ZS, because I think definitely having the Sett here for these fights is going to mean a hell of a lot more than having the Jayce here.
I agree, right? And ZS in the sideline as well, he can take down turrets so quickly with this 2 item, where once that becomes Mirror Mana as well, the damage is going to be amazing. Remember, he's 1,500 gold up still over a Garvey who has barely got his first item. And you mentioned the Dragon not going to be contested. Well, there you go. Second Dragon over to Ultra Prime. While LGD now, that timer begins. They're a team comp that we wanted to see snowballing off the start as Garvey's going in for aggressive trades. But Dagda, I mean, 2 Dragons time, that's Ocean Soul. That Ultra Prime might be able to get again as Garvey wants to 1v1 the Sett. Not sure if that's ever the idea. Flash, dunk down, punch him in the gut, and that Crocodile got put on the endangered species list.
Yeah, Garvey, that is not the way that you want to play this top side. You are massively far behind in comparison to xiaocaobao, who has those 4 kills, now make it 5 picked up. And LGD would have loved to just hung on for a second. Had Xiye teleport up, try and make this play.
That is the shortest range I've seen out of a Destiny in a while, but they get the kill. But Lilting Lullaby in action on top of Shadow. Xiye is unaffected as Gold Card connects. Hacker gets out, but only just. Javelin Toss doing a lot of damage. xiaoC Not going to be walking over a wall. They've got control
TP
in
behind.
that topside brush. Dagda called it. That teleport's big, but Garvey, remember, Dominus is all he has. He's knocked up, about to die. Heals up, thankfully. Gets pulled back on in, but he survived for so long. LGD now have a bit more time to work with, and numbers advantage yet again as Smlz is 4 versus the world. And down he will go as well. 2 kills to the Jinx. LGD somehow coming back from the brink of death.
Patience is no one's virtue in this game. It's been very back and forth where LGD, initially Garvey, could have waited for Xiye and Shadow to try and make a play on towards xiaocaobao in the top lane. But then it's actually Ultra Prime who go that bit too far forward, not respecting the fact that LGD could turn on towards xiaocaobao. And now they're forced to give, well, I was going to say give over the Rift Herald, but LGD, they completely back away. They don't want anything to do with it right now.
Dagda, this needs to be secured by Ultra Prime. If they're not able to hold on to this lead, I fear for them. Xiye going to go golden here. We all saw this coming. Here comes Shadow, though. The flash away, buying time. Gold cards there. Couple more autos, but Shadow to the rescue, man. That's brothers for you.
I think that was a bit of a misplay from ZS. I think if you just go for the knockback on the E with the Jayce in that hammer form, you get that execution damage. You should have been able to pick up the kill. Unfortunately for himself, though, not able to do so. Gives the kill over to Shadow. Now, Ultra Prime still get the Rift Herald. They will still be able to use this to get this mid lane turret, which is the big issue for Ultra Prime right now, is just trying to completely shove back LGD. But we're going to get a replay here of the TP coming in from Garvey. And as you said, Hysterics, like, he survived for so long in this fight. Mark getting that flash over the wall means that you're able to get the wall of growth. He gets a little bit more healing from Cove and Meek, and then a very spread out LGD aren't able to do much. But we're gonna look here. I think here, if ZS, he goes in, you walk behind Xiye here, you go for the knockback, it'll give you just enough time then for you to get the CC into a handful of autos, and you should be able to get the kill onto Xiye. But unfortunately, tried to go for the accelerated shot class, mistimes it, and it sets up perfectly because of the exhaust from Xiye to give the kill to Shadow.
To his credit, it's really hard for the accelerated shock blast timing there out of Zhonya's, but I agree.
Oh yeah.
If you, because remember, once you go into gun form, you have that 3-second, 4-second cooldown before you can go back into hammer. So once he made the commitment, he had to stick towards it. And after going down as well, note that Shadow picks up the kill. Shadow now has a bounty. He's 30 CS behind in the jungle due to cleaning up what was a mess for LGD. But he's definitely come back into this game. He now has a berserk amount of damage. And things are in the air a little bit more than they should be, Dagda. Only a 2k gold lead. Dragon's coming up, and now I'm questioning, with Kramer being able to pick up some resources too, if this almost 2-item Jinx is going to be able to help contest and maybe LGD make a pick around this next objective.
And don't forget as well, because you've got this Lulu paired with the Jinx, she is accelerated a lot further than you expect, because generally you see a lot of attack speed items coming through on towards the Jinx, but with the Lulu able to provide that through Whimsy, it means that you're able to get a lot more of these Kraken Slayer auto attacks off. You get a lot more of these rockets popping off in team fights as well. So I think certainly for LGD, the team fight is not something to be sniffed at, and I thought that we'd see Ultra Prime kind of clawing their way through the with the advantages they'd already picked up, but not quite able to do so is given LGD a bit of time. Now, Rift Tower going down in the mid lane, we'll get this tower, guarantee prio for Dragons, so Dragons should still go the way of Ultra Prime, but we'll have to see if LGD can mount something.
You just can't scoff at the poke that comes from this Nidalee jungle. Something that can change the face of this play. You mentioned the Dragon is going to be up in 5 seconds, and whether LGD can do it or not, they just have to keep dodging the swirl seed away as Shadow moves to the wave, keeps throwing out the javelin tosses here. Zetta's going to get some lettuce and make sure he heals up as well. Cersei connects onto Xiye as Hacker takes the javelin toss. Dagda, I want to point out that there is a huge amount of poke. LGD's pick potential is great as well, but UP are just staying grouped up. They're not giving any openings, bar maybe getting hit by 1 or 2 spears.
The big thing here, though, is like the healing that comes through from this Nidalee is going to nullify a lot of the poke that comes through from UP, whereas it is sticking around on Ultra Prime, although Mark taking a shock blast, not too happy about that. And we've actually swapped places now. LGD, they're the ones in control of this Dragon, and it has to be UP to look for an engagement.
The poke is just insane. I mean, it's a poke battle from both sides. Garvey has ulted over the wall, though, folks. Watch out for the flank coming through as Shadow's been caught out. Goes golden, but everyone from UP on top as he flashes away. Lilting Lullaby there, but LGD's backline has just destroyed themselves an AD carry. UP are now centered in front of a Croc. They're on the wrong side of the cage with a double kill for the most underwhelming member. Kramer lives while Shadow dies, and that means the Dragon can be started with 2 versus 4.
A strong team fight from LGD nets them to the first Dragon of the game. It slows the onslaught of Ultra Prime, but importantly as well, it gets that goal back in their favour. 3 kills now on towards Kramer. Now, still a 2k gold lead for Ultra Prime, but with the kills going to the most important member on LGD right now, they're going to be breathing a big sigh of relief.
This game goes on with the assumption that Ultra Prime are losing control. 3-1-1 on Kramer, who picked up that last kill, and Dagda, let's watch again.
So watch Smlz in the backline. He opens up with the curtain call, but that just gives access to Garvey and Xiye straight off the bat, so no damage comes through from the Jhin. The rest of LGD are doing a great job of kiting back with Mark providing a bunch of slows, the heat shields as well. And then you can see that, well, xiaocaobao's left on his own. You've already got Hacker who's got to run away. You have ZS as well, who's been separated because of Xiye and Garvey, now collapsing down after dealing with Smlz. Like, there was just nowhere for Ultra Prime to try and play that fight.
It's time and time again where Ultra Prime are looking for an angle, and then LGD are there to counterpunch. They had nothing in this early game, LGD, and suddenly they're back on board. Dagda, gold lead's only 1,000. There was a time at 8-9 minutes in the game where I was saying it's about 5k. It looked to be over, but game isn't over until that fat Nexus sings, and it's not singing yet. 22 minutes in, Dragon going over slows the game down, and LGD are really angling for these side turrets. You can see now playing side lanes that you talked about in draft. Xiye up in the top side, opening up the map, and Garvey just receiving some CS down the bottom side, while LGD are clearing out vision and making sure that Baron is always under threat, always questioned by Ultra Prime, so that this pick composition can do what it does best.
I am surprised to see Kramer going for the rapid fire cannon though. I know getting an extra auto attack off could be potentially nice in these team fights, but chances are it's just being launched into someone like xiaocaobao, right? It's not really hitting on towards the backline. I feel like going towards something like the Phantom Dancer, which gives you a little bit more safety and like the extra movement speed would be super nice. Or even looking towards the Runin's Hurricane, because when these fights actually kick off, you should be able to get rockets onto a hell of a lot of people in these fights, because there's kind of a relative like splash zone that you can work with, but not going to be the case here. So Kramer going to be looking to see if he can kind of use that instead to take a pop shot or two at people in these team fights, and maybe be able to take an extra long range shot at turrets if he's given the opportunity, with LGD trying to control side waves.
I'd be curious about what the third item is, because there's a dagger in inventory, so we might be getting the double zeal first instead of something like the BT or Infinity Edge coming third. I want to note on the other AD carry side that Smlz has gone for the Serpent's Fang, the lethality item that has so much to its name, that has now been buffed for range users. Still fantastic against this comp, right? We see, again, hang on, we got a bit excited after mid-turret went down. We see, you know, the shielding coming from Lulu, the main offender. So Serpent's Fang always going to be good against this composition. Dagda, it's 24 minutes in the game, and I want to bring your attention to something else, that as we get towards 2 items, and as these turrets are going down, when you have a Twisted Fate, when these turrets go down and you lose track of where this mid laner is, it becomes very dangerous for Ultra Prime if they don't have some of that defensive vision, or at least like the mid-range vision that can catch Xiye out as he's moving around looking for his picks.
Especially if LGD are able to burn a couple of these teleports off of Ultra Prime, right? Because then you get to see where you can start to have like 2 members of LGD kind of shadowing each other, pushing in on top side, and constantly having Xiye playing this potential CC lock with Garvey, because you got the rapid fire cannon there completed. So if you have Xiye coming in from Fog of War, he can pick people off, but could it get picked off here?
Yeah, he's flashing away, but ZS is just going to match. Everfrost there, but he's dead. I mean, Xiye, he tried to stop her back and he pathed ridiculously. That just wasn't it. Shadow going to try and clean this up, Dagda. I'm not sure what he can do, but yeah, that's just not what you need at this point in the game.
No, big mistake from Xiye, and now you've actually shut down a lot of that side lane pressure that we were just talking about for LGD. Ultra Prime now painfully aware that Dragon is on that top side, but not exactly a team that does it particularly quickly. You do have Smlz who's gone for the lethality build. You're not going to get a huge amount from Sett. They need the Jayce here, who has moved across to make sure they've actually got the damage to try and burst this.
Let's not forget Leandri's as well on Hacker does burn it pretty quickly, but you're right, it's not as quick as if you had a DPS AD carry, as Garvey's on a flank, but he's going to be versing 5. He flashes away. There's the dredge line from xiaoC, but the poke comes through. It's Shadow in the back line. It's Kramer as well. Garvey was a decoy, Lois, as the zap lines up Smlz. Super Mega Death Rocket was already used, but it's rockets galore here. Everyone into the back line. Xiye respawns, and the poke from LGD is insane.
And again, it's LGD playing these fights so much better. Now LGD, they can easily turn towards this Baron. They've got a heap of damage that can come through from Kramer. Xiye is going to be here to try and help out as well. And Shadow can keep everyone nice and topped up.
This jungler's come into the LPL, and people thought, ah man, EU jungler is going to get smashed. So far in both of his series, Shadow has been one of the best players on this team and has shown that he can keep up with some of these big-name junglers, at least big-name LPL junglers, right? Hacker's been in the league for quite a while, and Shadow is testing his might as we look again at how many spears connected and how much damage follow-up there was.
Shadow played this so damn well. I mean, as you said, like, setting up beautifully there for the resets to come through on Kramer as well, which is so crucial for this fight. And it feels like this meta suits Shadow down to the ground. When I was watching him back in 2020, we were starting to see the Graves meta and these kind of things, and he just wasn't comfortable trying to go for these farm heavy stalls. He much prefers champions where he can get in, get aggressive, and actually have a big impact in those early stages of the game. And we're seeing it now come to fruition where he picked up those 5 early kills. The Night Harvester gets completed, and he's just able to take over this game in its entirety. Shadow has been phenomenal so far in this series.
It's going to be exciting when we watch him against, I'm talking about big names in like Hacker, right? You could also argue that, maybe not a big name as he hasn't been on the international stage, but bigger names like Casa, like Tien. We go towards other junglers in the league, like I'm not going to call Shoot a big name, but maybe an IG fan in me is coming out to say hello. Dagda, we have Baron buff after the play, though, bringing us back to the game. LGD with a 2,000 gold lead after a game that looked done and dusted. Ultra Prime yet again dropping the ball, and LGD there to pick it up. Look at Kramer's items, now has a Storm Razor, and even a Rapid Fire onto Xiye at this point in the game. In side lanes with this Baron, there's a lot of work to be done, and work is being done, thanks to the 1-3-1 in current play.
Yeah, and you can see that there's just nothing that Ultra Prime can do to deal with this. Like, you've got good way to clear from ZS, but xiaocaobao, not so much.
He's caught out. Wow, has to flash away, and immediately there's the pressure once again. Look at the cannon minions doing work, and imagine if Hullbreaker was in the game, and that turret would already be gone. And they'd have pirate hats like Jack Sparrow. Inhibitor turret going to go down as well. Triple cannon. The boys are back, and they're just shooting down some barrels. Garvey now mid, setting up for another wave to break the base even further.
And that's it. xiaocaobao's been cut out.
I mean, he's just one shot. What the heck? It's over in an instant. Dagda, Mark gets poked down. Doesn't matter. Kramer's getting excited, running forward. Zap connects. Kramer making up for the sacrifices he made in a different series. Dagda. Inhibitor number 2 goes down. And LGD with the next minion wave are going to try and end this one. Poke good from Ultra Prime. But they have big death timers on jungle and mid.
And again, Ultra Prime, they find themselves on the back foot. This could actually be the 2-0 victory from LGD. Both times bringing these games back from the brink to clutch it out. Mark, though, takes a massive hit in that fight.
That javelin toss hurts more than a blood test. LGD with the first Nexus turret. In goes xiaoC to his doom. Garvey gonna die here thanks to Ignite, but actually healed up. Shadow does it again. And the brink of despair is something I've said so many times with LGD as they 2-0 Ultra Prime out of nowhere.
And all of it, again and again, is coming off the back of Shadow. Game number 1, he's finding these incredible flanks on towards Ultra Prime to shut down the team fights. Game number 2, when you think, right, there's a heap of poke on this Ultra Prime roster with Jhin, with not with Garvey, sorry, with the Jayce in the top lane coming through. Like, this is where you're thinking, all right, you don't have a chance. Yeah, you got Nidalee. What can Nidalee do? But Shadow just took over the game. Heat-seeking missiles every time, picking off key members, making sure that damage was hitting on towards Smlz, on towards Hacker, and stopping any answer coming through from Ultra Prime.
This was a game where in the early game, once again, Hacker took over. Shadow was behind on CS. Shadow was behind in kills. Laners were falling to their death, and then Ultra Prime made one wrong move. LGD committed in the bottom lane, made numbers advantage with the TP advantage. And Shadow picks up a couple of kills there. His solo laners get back into contention, and LGD bring it back from there. And I think it's impressive to see, but also a concerning fact that Ultra Prime and LGD look so similar. Both in the series we saw of LGD against Rare Atom, they had, better early games. LGD looked like the better team, and then they threw it all away. Ultra Prime here against LGD did the same thing. They had a great early game, and then they threw it away in first game and second game. Those should have been Ultra Prime wins, but LGD snagged them both piece by piece.
Yeah, and it really did feel like it came down to the Ultra Prime team fighting. Like, not kind of playing to their compositional strengths, where a couple of times we could see, okay, in game number 1, not playing towards that kind of front to back style, peeling for the back line. And then in game number 2, when we got to this third dragon, Smlz opening up with that curtain call, when you have no vision on where the flanking opportunities could potentially come through from LGD, and you've got a Twisted Fate in the game. That was not the call. He should have just continued to walk forward with the team, DPS, and then look to try and reset where he can open up from the curtain call when he knows that all his angles are safe. Again, then as well in those later fights, it just never really came to fruition. It felt like they had these opportunities to try and, push in with the Rift Herald towards mid, but xiaocaobao gets caught out. It was constantly just, they know what the play is, but they're just getting caught out in the execution every time.
Yeah, they were, and I think it's sad. It's also the start of the split though, so you kind of get that excuse, you get that buffer zone. Especially for a team like Ultra Prime that have shown good colors, especially against FPX, and today against LGD, we've seen some of the best of their play, but it is also like the same thing that's pulling them down, is that, people like ZS getting caught out. It's like, alright, xiaocaobao still is, how's the comms with this team? There's a lot to look at, Dagda, but at least both games are good LPL graphs, right? I don't know if you saw the first one, but the first one was this nice little mountain for LGD that came out of nowhere, and this one is like a nice decline, like, yeah, we're finally getting off Everest. The air is a bit freer down here.
Yeah, they reached the summit and had to come back down the other side, and someone that was a force to be reckoned with in that game. Look at Shadow's damage! Yep. He's the highest damage in the game as a Nidalee. When you have things like the Jinx in the game, that is absolutely insane.
Yeah, absolutely. Like the fact that he's almost rivaling a Jayce, right? You can just see the both champions going out. Highest damage on LGD though, for sure. And yeah, again, we've talked up Shadow. And I think a lot of people will be tuning in and being like, oh, they want to talk about the EU player, the person that's come over, the anomaly, right? That, the person we didn't expect to come over. But Shadow's actually playing really well. I think Shadow deserves a lot of credit here and is the best performing member of LGD in its current form. Xiye's had moments where he has really stepped up and shown us his world class, because remember, WE semifinals at Worlds in 2017, he was part of that Mystic roster. But for LGD, Shadow's brought this new life that the team needed. And with 3 out of 5 of their 2020 Worlds roster, this is a team that could actually surprise and might be looking towards a playoff spot if they keep this development up in series per series.
Yeah, and just coming back to the Shadow point, like, he's picked up MVP in game number 1. I would be massively surprised if he's not MVP in game number 2.
Get it again.
And honestly, when we were looking at their original series that they end up losing out on against Rare Atom, I honestly thought that Shadow should have been MVP for a lot of those series, or those games in that series as well. So, like, there's a reason that we were looking at this guy, and a reason why we call today Jungle Day, because of the caliber of players like Shadow that are tearing up our jungle role now that they've been unleashed from Udyr and Hecarim duty.
Sorry, I was just having a laugh while you're talking about it should have been MVP in the Rare Atom series, and I thought, that's because Kramer got it in game 3 or game 2. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. I don't want to be cruel. Kramer had a better game this time around. And while we joke, and while, it is obvious, like, here in the LPL, we do call things how they are. If someone ints and griefs, we're going to say, why did you int and grief? Kramer this time around, his positioning on the Jinx was much better. And while they also banned out the Ezreal and the, I think it was Kai'Sa or another AD carry along those lines, on the side of LGD, the fact is Kramer this time, he was left with Mark, and they did a good job. They held their lane state. They were down 20 CS, as a lot of the time with these hyper carry lanes can be. But Kramer played better, and I think that's a really good level up, and it might show some potential for the future. I hope Kramer gets better. Kramer can be a good AD carry, but much like Smlz in the past, much like iBoy, there are some times where you question what they're doing. Game 1, there were some moments, but nothing like the last series Dagda. So we're leveled up. Good job.
Yeah, and then look, I think for LGD fans as well, this is definitely something to celebrate, because I know for a lot of them, looking at like spring 2021 was kind of a big question mark. There was a lot of pings going down, going, hey, where'd our roster go? Who are these guys? Yes, he kept on to Kramer, but you had Koi and Flora who were coming in and trying to fill in that jungle role. It wasn't quite working out. Uniboy coming across from the PCS as well, but he didn't find a lot of success in that mid lane. Now, though, we're starting to see that with this LGD roster, when you get the pieces back together, when you start to get some of that magic that we saw in summer 2020, things can look good, and things are positive for a lot of the fans.
They are, and could go anywhere from here, right? I'm just pulling up the schedule, just having a look over here as to what their next match is, Dagda. For LGD, looking across, it is BLG, then JDG. So this first week has been a really good showcase of skill and where they're sitting. A team like BLG that's 0-2, you know, that's a winnable game for BLG. And then going up against JDG, you never know. You never know. I mean, TT versus JDG, TT showed it could be close, so there's a lot to discuss there. Dagda, I've been told, it's Shadow MVP, by the way. What a surprise.
It always was.
Very well deserved. This man, I mean, you can say it, because I think I've said it enough.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know what there is to say. The guy was just unstoppable, and I think to give credit to him as well, the fact that we had the mess up from Garvey in top lane where that was shut down. Xiye wasn't getting anything done in mid lane either. This was off the back of kind of his own work to get to the position he was in. Now, we did see some flubs in the early stages where, of course, we got that skirmish that went Ultra Prime's way. But a lot of these turnaround plays were off the back of Shadow just consistently hitting these spears, finding the chances for the execution damage. And then when we got to these later fights again, not missing anything that he tossed out. It always seemed to find its way towards the heart of Ultra Prime.
Because I thought EU Nidalee's always missed their spears, so I was pleasantly surprised to see that this game that he, hit pretty much all of his spears. So if there's any Yankos fans out there that eat your heart out, we obviously got the better Nidalee at the end of the day. These later fights is when it's every spear that connected was 3/4 of someone's health. Hope comes through from Kramer as well, and we're just seeing the final remnants of Ultra Prime in that second game. A really good start for LGD and Dagda, their first series win in their home arena in Hangzhou, as we're going back to the home arena system. So it is exciting for the fans to get something. But ladies and gentlemen, just a big reminder for you. It is Hanfu Day for the next couple of days, and in the LPL Hanfu Day, we've organised a quiz for you. We're up to 60 winners in the top of the charts. Will be awarded $20 RP. All you have to do is look in the chat. If you're YouTube or Twitch, you type !Hanfu to join the event link and answer the question on your screen now. Does it belong to A, B,